You can live a life full of love and light if you just let the Spirit guide you. It's the remedy where you'll find peace, but you must let the Spirit guide you.
Who made y'all priests?
What's up, world? This is Awo Fafore.
What's going on, good people? This is Awo Osheun. Welcome back to the Who Made Y'all Priest podcast, where we talk about our spiritual journeys, our everyday life experiences, and the issues of the time from the perspective of two people who just happen to be priests. Fafore, what's going on, man?
Man, nothing much. You see, I got me a little new background. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man. I
This,
see you capping to the people like you really be reading.
oh man, y'all look at this. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 7 shelves. 7 shelves full. You know what
I
I'm
know what
saying?
I know what you did. You went to Goodwill and bought all of them books and just threw them up there and say, I'm gonna put this in my background and have people think I really be studying out here, man.
Now, see, this is when you are like past 7 and you have dedicated yourself to studying, to learning, in order to be able to teach and pass on that wisdom. See, that's what I decided to do this go round. So I got to get right. You know what I'm saying? Y'all seen
So
the
are there,
other, y'all seen the other bookcase in the other room. You know what I'm saying, in my office.
so are there any books on your bookshelf that talk about like how to get over on your brother?
Hey, hey,
So let's talk about
hey!
that. Let's talk
I
about that, man.
I knew you was gonna bring that up, and I'm glad you did, man.
Yeah.
Let's holler at the people,
Situation,
man.
man. Y'all know. For those of you that don't know, Fafore and myself, we went to Virginia not long ago. We had a blast in Virginia. We met some of our god brothers and sisters. Got to kick it with our Luo. Got to kick it with Chief Ialode. Got to kick it with a few of our veggies. But while we were there, we went to this vegan spot called the House of Consciousness. Oh, they slap over there too, man. It was some amazing food over there and some even better desserts. And so that's what we're talking about right now. We're
Shout out
talking
to House
about
of
these desserts.
Consciousness out there in Norfolk.
Yeah, man, that was amazing. I think we went there 3 or 4 times while we was there. Three or
Man,
four times.
we spent big money. You know what I'm saying? A couple times we took outside of that first time, the other 2, 3, 4 times we took people with us. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, man. We spent a lot of money in there. But during the course of that, one of the young ladies that was inside of the establishment gave us a free piece of pie, a piece of pie on the house, and told us to split it. So when we got back to the Airbnb, we put the pie in the refrigerator, and I trusted that the next morning that the half of the pie that was slated for me would still be there. But little did I know that when I went to the refrigerator the next morning, that my pie would be gone. My piece of pie would be gone. So we visited the same establishment again, and I informed Fafore that he needed to buy me a whole pie.
That is
Whole
not
pie.
how it went.
Not half. Don't buy me a half of a pie. I need you to buy me a whole pie, and I need to eat the whole thing like you did because I need to repay you in the way that you hurt me. So I needed to hurt you to the same degree. You feel what I'm saying?
No, man, you hate it. First of all, let me tell you something. See, listen, this is why you can't have people retell the story because that ain't exactly what happened. So what happened was is because of my charming personality, making the people laugh, you know, really opening up, making the people feel comfortable, and we spent good money there. They was like you said, on the house, I'm gonna give you this piece of pie. Now, mind you, Oseun done ordered like 50 things, right? So we leave there, he got bags of stuff that he taking to eat for later, right? So I wake up the next day, you know, moving around, doing my thing, get a little hungry. So I go in the refrigerator. Refrigerator is stocked full of stuff. All the Oshayum, right? Mind you, the day before, because he ain't take no snacks on the plane. Who go on a plane with no snacks? Mind you, it was like a layover for like 2 hours or something like that. It was like a 5 hour trip, 5.5 hour trip total. He ain't had no snacks. So he is elbow deep in my snacks, right? I brought some cherries. You know what I'm saying? He deep into my cherries. Then the next morning, he eat my banana. I brought some bananas. He ate one of my bananas, right? So I'm already limited now because he ain't take care of his part. I had to go ahead and look out for him. So the next morning, my situation is a little slim, right? Because I didn't get him all my food.
Wow.
The pie is looking me in the face. So I take the pie, half of it's mine, half of it's his. Because I am a Virgo sun, I'm a servant. You know, I'm here to give. I gave him 51%, and I took about 49 as I cut it, right? Not quite down the middle. So I take my 49%. I take a bite. Oh boy, when I'm telling you it is melting in my mouth, and it's clean too, you know what I'm saying? Because, you know, I already told y'all the story. I had a bad year eating last year on my 9th year of veganism. And you know what I'm saying? So I'm doing better, right? You know what I'm saying? Like no zuzus and wham whams, you know, no nothing out of pocket, right? So good and clean, right? Ingredients look really good. So I take a bite and it is melting in my mouth. Right. I said, oh, this is delicious. So I'm like, look, he ain't about the one this right now. Because he got a whole refrigerator full of stuff. So I eat the other half. And I say to myself, we going back. We already had the discussion that we was coming back. I'm going to buy another pie. And I'm going to replace my brother's 50% of the pie. Right? So I go to Oshayun. He gets up and he's moving around. I said, hey, brother, just to let you know, just coming to you as a man. Right? I ate your half of the pie. But when we go back to the house of consciousness, I am going to replace your 50%. He said, you know what? I greatly appreciate you coming to me like a man. Thank you. So we get there. I get the sweet potato pie out. I said, hey, got the pie. I got you. Now, mind you, the pie we received was free. Now, I'm paying for this pie. I'm going to give him his 50%. I'm going to make him whole because he was only out 50%. So I'm going to get my half, right? You know what I'm saying? Because it's good. I'm going to get my half. Take your half. He eats the whole pie in my face and says that as punishment for you eating my half, I need to eat the whole pie. And I'm like, well, my role, if this was a court of law, is to make you whole. I'm making you whole by giving you your 50%. He ate the whole pie. So family, being that we know all of y'all personally, and we know that y'all all good and honest people, comment below, what did I owe Oshayun? Did I owe him a whole pie? Even though he never had a whole to begin with, or was my only obligation was to make him whole by giving him a half a pie? That's what we need to know.
Now, before y'all begin to comment down below, I want y'all to understand that when revenge is exacted, logic is no longer in play. I needed him to feel the same thing that I felt when I woke up the next morning and my half a pie was not there. I needed him to feel the same thing that I felt. So I want you guys to keep that in mind, that I was not being logical. I was being vengeful. I was being spiteful. I was trying to make him feel the way that I felt. So y'all keep that in mind.
Yeah, so answer below because we know that y'all all good, God-fearing people. So let us know what y'all think about that. But outside of that, man, VA was a beautiful trip, man. Like he said that we got the opportunity to hang with our Luo. Man, shout out to our Luo. And this is why our Luo is an amazing man, an amazing human being. So we were talking, and I told him that we were going to VA. And he was like, well, when y'all leaving? So I told him. He said, oh, I'm going to come down there and hang out with y'all. And sure enough, 65 years young, our Luo got there the day before us to receive us when we got there in VA. And we got to see, like, and he called and checked up on us. Like, we landed, told him, hey, we here. He like, come straight to where I am. We went to go eat and went straight to where he was. And we got to see him Thursday and Friday. And it was just a good time. We went down to Richmond on Sunday to do the trail where people who were captured in Africa and brought to the United States as slaves who came through Richmond. We got to walk the trail from where they docked to where they walked to be auctioned off as slaves. So we got to walk that. Our Luo reached out to one of our god brothers, and we didn't know he was doing this. And he ended up linking up with us and, taking us on that trail. And being that he was from there, he had a lot of the history. So it was amazing. So, man, shout out to our Luo, Baba Femi. We love you. We appreciate you. He's always looking out, man. He's always looking out for us. But it was a great trip.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was an amazing trip. As a matter of fact, that was the highlight for me. Walking those trails. Walking those trails was the highlight for me. It was a bittersweet moment, it was bitter to have to follow in the footsteps of my ancestors that were experiencing the horrors of slavery. But it was also sweet to actually be able to do that, to be able to walk the same path that they walked, feel that anxiety. I already have anxiety, but I felt the anxiety walking down that trail, understanding that they were walking in a position that I wasn't walking in. So we got to visit the ancient African burial grounds at the end of that walk. That was an amazing experience for me to be able to do that. We went to Fort Monroe and got to see some of what looked like dungeons to me. Got a chance to see some of those dungeons right on the water. It's crazy how beautiful the beach was, or how beautiful the bay was, and then that's in the backdrop. And you have people around that's just, I don't know if they're oblivious to the history or if they just don't care. Like, it's some type of attraction, and there's no connection to the history. Even our own people, there's no real connection to the history. And I believe that until we start to really honor our ancestors, until we really start to show gratitude for the sacrifices that they made, that we could never ask for a better position than we're in right now. We will never grow beyond what we are right now until we do that.
Yeah, man, that was powerful, man. There's nothing more I can really add to that. That was beautiful how you laid that out. But to transition from that into the topic of the evening, man, we have a show today that is special to us.
Right.
Because for the first time since April of 2020, we will be in the present. 21. Oh, yeah, I was giving us some extra time, right? Yeah. 2021, right. We will actually be in the same space at the same time as the other 8 men who was with us in Ibodu. So gonna have an episode. We're gonna talk with our Ibejis about our experiences from then until now. So you ready to just hop on in?
Yeah, man, let's get the Ibejis on, man.
All right, let's go.
What's going on, good people, man? What's going on, Ibejis, man? How y'all feeling out there, man?
It's all good. It's all good.
Man, how you brothers feeling?
My brothers.
We feeling great, man. We're glad to be in the presence of y'all again, man. We really appreciate y'all taking the time out of y'all busy schedules to come and kick it with us for a little bit, man, to get the people, let the people know who we went through Igbodu with, man, know what we looking like out here. So look, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna get everybody to state their names, their government names, and your spiritual names, and tell us how long you've been in the tradition of Orisha and Ifa.
Hey, my name, my government name, or the name that my mother and father gave me, is James Edward Thomas Jr., Little Rick, which came down from my father, Omo Parlant. And my Orisha name is Efunyale Orisha Yemi Ifadayo Ifasheye Ifayemi. So that's my Orisha name. I could break that down for you, but it's a lot of us on here, so I'm gonna leave it at that.
I show.
All right. Well, I'm number 2. My name is Samuel David Allen Omorozi. I'm known as an artist as Karega Ani, and my Ifa name is Awo Ifatumo Fayori Fayemi. I've been in the culture for 12 years now.
Wow.
All right, I guess that's on me. I'm number 3. My name is Isaac Jarrell Curtis Holloway, Omo Cleo. I've been in the tradition since about 2016, about 7 years. And my Ifa name is Olamini Ifalami Fayemi.
Ashe.
All right, so I would be behind Fafore and Oshayun. My government name is Abdul John. Ifa name, Awo Ifatumishe Ojekunle Atenumo Bayemi. And I was first introduced to Ifa in 2010, so that would be about 13 years.
What's up, fellas? Pardon me. My government name is Kerry Foster Jr. I'm Sharon. My Ifa name is Awotomipe. I've been Ifa. I've been practicing Ifa for since 2016, so we're about 7 years now.
My name is Leslie Emery Lawrence III, Omo Carolyn, and my Ifa name is Ifatomi Fahimi. And I came into Ifa, I'm practicing African spiritual tradition since 2019, so just 3 years in.
I'm number 9. I'm Chief Moreno. My family calls me Boz, short for Shabazz. My Ifa name is Olabina Fayemi. I came into Ifa when I met these brothers. Straight into Ifa.
Ashe.
Boz is special.
My name is William Lindsay. Awo Ifa Tawo Yemi. I was first introduced to Ifa back in 2012. Ashe.
I think I forgot the time that I've been in Ifa. I think it was around 2014, 15, somewhere around there.
So some of you have been in the tradition longer than I thought, especially Karega. I didn't know that you had been in the tradition that long. So what we're going to do, we're going to talk about when did you know you wanted to be a priest and how did you come to that conclusion? Now I'm going to shoot this question to Boz, Karega, and James. And any of you that feel compelled to answer the same question after them, we'll go with that. So Boz, when did you know that you wanted to be a priest and how did you come to that conclusion?
I've never been sure. Even when I was there, I wasn't sure. And I still remember Leslie coming outside of the restaurant talking to me. I don't know if I was going to leave or what. All my stuff was at the compound, but I'm thinking, hey, I'm not so sure about this. But still, there were times when I would speak with Baba Femi, Baba Shangadari, and I would think, I'm ready now. Because every time that I discovered that I could do something new with medicine, I was like, I'm ready. I want to be there for Osayin. I want to see what I can learn, how he can enhance me. So I knew that I wanted to do it, but I can't give you a particular date or a specific date because I've never really been sure. And even after initiation, I still wasn't sure. And I'm just now getting to the point where I'm becoming creative again and I'm doing things. I'm feeling like the person I'm here to be. So hopefully that helps.
Ashe.
What about you, Brother Karega?
Now, see, for me, it's kind of interesting because, like, I was even before I kind of came into the culture proper, people were kind of coming to me with that same sort of energy. Like, I remember being in Detroit in like 2007, right? And there, I had a poet come to me saying that somebody had put something on her and she was asking for help. So it's things of that sort. I mean, it's all I've always kind of been around it. I saw our set. I was doing that before this. So that's kind of how I met Baba Femi then way back in like 2004. And met Baba Ipega as well. Now, through a series of fortuitous events, I was living in California, met Omi Tosin, who I was involved with at the time, and that was how I ended up in the culture. How I knew that I was going to be a priest, I think, was pretty early on in my walk. It was clear that there was something intuitive and it made sense, and that I was helpful, and it was helping me to be helpful. So I just recognized the service of it early on, and it was in alignment with who I knew myself to be, and through Dafai, it came to be clear that it was in alignment with my destiny as well. So it was pretty early on. I'd say probably 2012 at the latest.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Brother James?
Well, for me, I met this Babalawo here in Las Vegas through this spiritual shop that I used to go to called The Spirit Within. And I used to go in there and pick up certain things. And the owner of the shop said that there was this Babalawo, and I didn't even know what that meant, but he was going to be giving a lecture on the 7 African powers. And I said, hey, that sounds pretty interesting, so I'm going to go and check it out. So I go down there, and he's talking about Orisha, which I didn't know nothing about. And when I went to that particular lecture, something happened. Is that when he was talking about these Orishas and talking about angels and kind of associating with angels, and then he said, yeah, it's like voodoo or voodoo. And something in me panicked when I heard that word. And I said, well, what's going on? Because you really don't know nothing about voodoo. You don't know nothing about voodoo or nothing. And in that moment, I come to realize that why I was panicking was because it was the things that I had seen in the media and on movies and how they had demonized that African tradition. So I stayed there and I listened. And ultimately, he said that he did something called divination or destiny readings. And so I said, well, wow, a destiny reading, man, I really want to know what I'm supposed to be doing. And he said that, well, if you were in alignment with your destiny, then life would be fulfilling and joyful and all those things because you would be on the path that you were supposed to be on here on earth. So I went and got a Dafai done. And, I didn't really understand what was going on, especially when he told me to go pour some palm oil on this rock and back it by this tree. And I didn't understand how that was going to do anything. So I kind of stepped away from that. But what stuck with me was when he was talking about destiny, and that if I was on my destiny, life would be fulfilling and all those types of things. And so I said, you know what? I don't really know or understand what's going on, but I'm going to go back to this brother and I'm going to have another Dafai done. And whatever comes up on the mat is what I'm going to go with. So when he Dafai, boom, he was like, yeah, man, you need to receive your hand to be Fa, your Ishe Fa. So I just got about that business of doing it. And every time that I would have a substantial reading, it would always come up that I needed to be initiated to something. The next time something showed up, I was sitting on this Ianifa's lap, who was associated with us. And when I sat on her mat, she was like, yeah, it's like Obatala and Ifa is fighting for your head, right? And I'm like, I didn't really understand what that meant. But after that, I went to one of my first bimbays, to an Obatala celebration for an Obatala priest. And this particular priest would channel Orishanla. And so this is like my first bimbe, and she's going around the room giving these messages. And so when she got to me, she was like, don't let nobody tell you that you're not my child. You're my child. Talking, Obatala is speaking through her. And I didn't know how she would know that this Ianifa would say, like, Ifa and Obatala was fighting for your head, but she said, you are my child. You need to be initiated to me first. And she was speaking in Spanish, but she had an interpreter. She said, you need to be initiated to me first, and then you go to Ifa, right? So that was sort of like, wow, that's a trip. So ultimately, it wasn't a matter of me wanting to be a priest. I was just staying true what was coming up on the mat.
Mm.
was being said to me by these Babalawos and these Ianifas. So ultimately, I met our Luo up in LA. He chopped it up with us. He was a cool brother. He said, yeah, I can do that. So I went down in 2017 and became a priest of Obatala. And I was thinking about, I was kind of feeling some type of way about that. I had to call Chief Dawolani and say, look here, man, I don't really know y'all like that. Am I going to be good? And Chief talked to me, so I ultimately ended up doing that. And one of the first things that came up in that reading when I was initiated to Obatala, it was Shango Yemi and Chief Kolade was doing my dafa. And the first thing that came out of Chief's voice, out of her mouth was, you need to be initiated to Ifa to seal in your Ire. So once again, I'm sitting on the mat and it's telling me that I needed to be initiated priest. Now let's fast forward to that, to my Tefa. What happens on that mat? I get the messages, and then Baba said, you know what? Look like you might need to be initiated to Olokun or Yemoja. So he dafas there. He said, well, yeah, you need to be initiated to Yemoja. So the reason that I end up in this priestly, situation is really just staying true to what's coming up in the dafas and just suiting up, showing up. And that's ultimately how I end up becoming a priest of Obatala and Ifa. Ashe?
Ashe. Ashe.
So, for myself, I believe Fafore's story is going to be similar. It didn't take anything for me to know that I wanted to be a priest. Once Baba dropped the chain for me the very first time, and I got my very first reading, I knew right then is I want to be able to do what Baba does. So it's nothing special about when I figured out I wanted to be a priest. It was from the very first moment, my very first introduction into Orisha and Ifa. I knew then that I wanted to be a priest. What about you, Fafore?
Yeah, September 25th, 2018 is when I received my first dafa, my first reading. And I don't know that I necessarily wanted to be a priest. I know I wanted to do what Baba was doing, because I felt like, if nothing else, with the hustle of being able to use that chain, I'd be able to manipulate all kind of situations. So I didn't know you had to be a priest to do all that, but I knew, like, and I asked him, because people know my story. I went in because I felt he was hustling my boy. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't appreciating that, so I wanted to get to the bottom of that. But at the end of it, I asked him, like, yo, what's next? And he just started laughing. I'm thinking to myself, like, what's funny? I'm dead serious. Like, what? His answer seemed like a slow, methodical, and I'm like, man, you trying to hold out on the real. Like, I'm trying to do what you do. I'm trying to get these lotto numbers. I'm trying to figure out what time it is with this, that, and the other. That seemed dope. And shortly after that, I realized there was some responsibility that came with that, but I was with it at that time. Mm-hmm. So, the benefit about us, myself, Osheun, and Fatumishe being in Houston, because our Luo was here, and I feel like we get a lot of firsthand information. So, at first, I was thinking it was going to be myself, Osheun, Fatumishe, and there was two other brothers that I don't know if they ever got initiated or not. I think it was, it might have been the ones who they went in and did in the islands, like following us. But it was going to be us. And I was like, okay, that's cool. We're going to be here in this space. And then I remember having a conversation with Baba, and then he said it's going to be 10 of us. And I'm like, why? like make them wait, man. How 10 people going to fit in this thing? Like, nah, man, we don't even know these dudes. And I'm acting like I had been there for 100 years. Oh, we don't even know these people. Like, bro, what's up? How I get to be 10? Like, in Oba's house, it's going to be 10 of them. Using the same toilet, showering in the same shower. Like, man, no. So my expectations is that it was going to be chaos, right? Going into it. My expectations was like, man, this is going to be rough as far as just having all these people in this one little space. But at the end of the day, at the end of this, my brother who I had been kind of walking down this path with since, years earlier, since we, were in the lodge together. At the end of this, that he and I were going to be priests, and whatever was going to come of that was going to come on that. But other than I didn't really have any high expectations, other than the fact that it was going to be nuanced and it was going to be uncomfortable, but I would survive and get through it. I was pleasantly surprised almost immediately upon getting to Igbodu and meeting all you brothers, and I wouldn't have had it any other way. So my question to you guys is, what were your expectations going into Igbodu, and what were your thoughts afterwards? Let's start with Fatumishe.
All right, greetings, brothers. That's a very good question. I think I had a lot of apprehension, but I knew I was in the right place. I'm one of those people that originally thought, you're going to initiate, you got to do it in Nigeria. That's where all of these other priests initiated. They got to do it in Nigeria. So I was on the fence about initiating in the United States. And then I started to talk to some of the other Awos, Awo Ifalalu in particular. He gave me a reassurance that, it makes sense to do it around the people that you already know. There's a level of comfortability there, with the not knowing, okay, I don't know this person, and now they're praying for me and laying hands on me. I knew all of the priests that were going into it. I got to meet some new priests, and it got to open your eyes to the brotherhood that this Awo thing is. Meeting you guys on the first day, I felt like it was all good energy. We all had a little bit of, maybe nervousness, maybe, anxiety about it, but none of us really seemed unnerved. And then after speaking, we stayed up pretty late talking. I think we learned so much about each other that all of our paths, though we came through as a different areas, all of us came together for whatever reason the Spirit put us there. And we know some things that were revealed during the process that confirm that. So coming out of it, I don't know. It's been a challenge, but it's also been an enlightenment that I don't think I could have found anywhere else. Sometimes, you wait for things to happen and you're like, why ain't they happening at the speed that I'm looking for? But when they happen, it's so clear that this is what is supposed to be happening. This is what you were told was going to happen, that all you could do is really smile. And I'm one of those people that is a reluctant priest. Some of the responsibilities that come with this, I didn't necessarily think that I was going to be ready for. But when you get put in certain positions and you feel so comfortable in those positions, and you're like, my spirit is telling me this is what I'm supposed to be doing, whether I'm ready for it or not. I think that's a blessing of Ifa. That's been my experience in these last 2 years. And I'll go ahead and pass the mic to somebody else.
Ashe. So the next person I want to go to, shortly after, we found out that it went from the three of us plus two miscellaneous people that we didn't know to now it was going to be 10. I find myself in Atlanta, Georgia, because my niece was getting her hand of Ifa there, and our Luo was down there. And I got the chance to meet Karega, and Baba was like, hey, he's one of the people that's going to be getting initiated with you guys. So Karega, same question for you. What were your expectations going into it, and what were your thoughts coming out?
My expectation going into it was discomfort, to be short. I didn't anticipate I don't know. I guess I didn't anticipate it being as miraculous as it was. Like, for people who really didn't know much about each other at all, to be able to, I don't even think it was just kind of like to put differences aside. It felt like all of the components were there and everything was in proper alignment. Like, just the right people were put in the right place at the right time for the right purpose. And so, yeah, to the brother's point earlier, like, there was a little bit of nerves starting out, but that quickly gave way to a degree, like an uncanny degree of introspection. So I think everybody was just there in such a space that they were there to do the work that needed to get done, to prepare to do the work that needed to get done. And it was fantastic. Like I look at those times in my life where I've been around my frat brothers, and I've been around the lodge and other assemblies of men, coming together for a particular purpose under a particular set of beliefs and standards. But nothing like this. Nothing even comes close. Because, so oftentimes people kind of bring their own egos and agendas into the whole situation. It was nothing like that this time. It was everybody is here to learn and prepare themselves for the work that we're about to engage in. And I just thought it was sublime.
Ashe. And lastly, on this question, I want to go to my Virgo brother, Olamini. So same question for you.
I think I gotta echo Karega here because I kind of came into it with a sense of nervousness, like not knowing what to expect, but also kind of just determined to like whatever it's gonna be, it's gonna be. I'm coming out of this a priest no matter what, so whatever. And then to come in and then like that first night we're up all night talking. And then just the camaraderie was instant, and I've never been in a situation where I'm in, we 10 deep in this, enclosed space and everything is cool. And there's no ego, there's no going back and forth, no sizing each other up that you kind of tend to expect in those situations. Like everybody was just cool. And that just kind of set the tone like, okay, we're gonna be all right.
Ashe. Olamini, I want to apologize to you. I had the misfortune of having to speak one time after Karega. It's not something that you enter into that lightly. So from now on, when we ask questions and Karega, one of the people we ask questions, we're gonna say him for last.
Right.
In that
I mean, it is what it is, man.
Hey, man. When I met Karega, we had to speak right at that Ishe 5. So I wasn't expecting, because normally, or when I've been in presence, it's really just a priest. But Bob was like, well, y'all about to be priests, so y'all got something to say? And I'm like, nah, I ain't gonna say nothing. But then Bob got to call a name, so he like, Karega do a whole like poem.
That sounds about right.
Right? So at first I was feeling it. I think I might have closed my eyes a little bit, was nodding my head like, oh yeah, he's snapping. And then I got shuttered out of it, thinking to myself, like, who the hell coming next? And I'm like, man, watch it be me. And sure enough, as soon as he got done, Baba looked at me, you know what I'm saying? And was like, Fidero, your turn. I said, do I gotta go? But so we go through Ibodu 5 days, and we have a tremendous experience. The conversations that we had. It was a couple of times where they had to come in and tell us to shut up. Like, hey, man, keep it down. Like, man, we had a ball. But we go through that whole 5-day process. And now it's time for us to leave, right? How did y'all feel right after that? Like what happened right after that? Like, how did you feel? I know for me, being like a super extrovert, I just wanted to be by myself. Like, I didn't want to be around, I don't care who you were, I didn't want to be around anybody. And it wasn't like a irritation type of thing or whatever. It just like, I just felt like I needed to just, it's hard to explain. Like, I needed to process something, right? There was something going on internally that I needed to be by myself to allow it to kind of happen, right? Whatever that meant. And I just remember not having that opportunity of being by myself, and it was kind of frustrating. So how did y'all feel? Let's go to Leslie. How did you feel leaving Ibodu?
As far as coming out, it was like you say, you needed some time to process because you don't think about it when you're going through it because we're all going through the same exact thing, having the same readings, going through the same processes. But afterwards, you reflect and it's like, man, I really done this, So then it's like you hear about, the responsibilities, you hear from the elders, and it is really, you have to sit back and really process all this. So you get home and it's not really immediately, but it's like a little bit afterward, you start to look at things a little different. After you go through a process like that, then that kind of opens up something new in you. And that's like immediately right after, that's what happened with me within the first few weeks.
Ashe.
Brother William, how about you?
Shortly after I had left Houston and got back to Detroit, I started to experiencing a whole lot of anger that was deep down inside of me. And it was almost like I couldn't control it. And I remember Baba Will, who is now in China, we met for lunch one day and I was discussing it with him. Had you had any similar experiences when you come out of Egbo Do? And he was like, no, I can't say that I do. But as I continued to talk with him, he told me, he said, man, you got to forget a little boy. And it hit me as soon as he said that. And it took me back to a time in my life when I was a young boy and I witnessed something that I couldn't control. And I held that anger. That anger has been inside of me ever since. That's my first experience. I think I might have been maybe 5 or 6 at the time. And I had so many years that passed by that I totally forgot it. And so I started dealing with that suppression, that anger that was down in my subconscious. And other things start surfacing and start coming up. And that's been my relationship with E5 thus far. Self-discovery. It just continues. No matter what I do in E5, it always brings me back to me. Ashe.
So, good brother, you went back to Detroit and chose violence. That's the wrong city to.
No, I could have got my actions on with the quick.
Right. That's the wrong city to go back and trying to get active.
Yeah, I was talking to brothers. I reached out, to my brothers, James. And then me and Bob start connecting, and I just got honest, with what I was experiencing, and I've grown. I've seen a lot of growth over the last couple of years, but there's some things with me that has to change. E5 to me has changed. I have to change from my old ways.
Ashe. Brother James, how about yourself, good brother? How did you feel after Egbo Do? Once you left?
Going into Egbo Do and having had an experience and going through and being initiated to a Batala, which are two totally different energies. I felt vulnerable because I walked into Egbo Do trying to be vulnerable to begin with because, it was shared with us to try to leave as much of that stuff or what Baba been talking to us about for the last year or so, leave some of that trauma outside, and kind of deal with as much of it as I possibly could. So going into Egbo Do, I tried to allow myself to be vulnerable. And on the other side of it, I still felt vulnerable. But my vulnerability was really about, I put up this hard exterior. And I had to do that as a little kid, because I had to survive the experiences that I was going through. So I had to leave all those emotions and all those feelings, those things were a liability to me. So I had to put up this hard exterior. So that's why when I was in Egbo Do, man, I was up in Egbo Do crying. Karanga hit me on the, man, you good? I said, yeah, man, I'm good. I'm just trying to let it go. And that just don't stop in those 5 days.
Right.
It continued. But for me, I had to continue to allow myself to be open and to feel the uncomfortable feelings and emotions, which definitely came. And I know we've been in priesthood for the last 2 years. And I know we hitting our group because when the 2 year came up, man, I was feeling some type of way, man. I was feeling emotional, man, and all kind of stuff. And I was wondering if some of my brothers was feeling some of the same energies. And yet Yeah, y'all was feeling some of the same things. So coming out of that, I really felt vulnerable, but I knew that if I was willing, that I had the tools given to me. I can go to Ifa, I can go to Obatala, and I can get that spiritual GPS going to help to lead me and direct me on how I need to do. Because see, when I'm in a vulnerable state, the first thing I want to do when I feel like you coming at me left, I want to just and I got to pause on that. I've heard Oseun say, you know, man, I'm always waiting for the stuff to jump off. I'm always waiting for it to jump off. And I'm the same way, but I had to allow myself to just relax and just know and understand that the Egun was there, Obatala was there, Ifa, and the whole deal. So for me, for the most thing was feeling vulnerable and allowing myself to be vulnerable. Ashe?
Ashe.
What about you, Ifa Tomi Pay?
What's up?
What about you? How did you feel immediately coming out of Igbodu?
For me, coming out immediately, it was a different feeling. It was kind of strange. Like Jimmy, I'm an extrovert. You know, I like to communicate, talk, joke. You know what I'm saying? But for a minute, I was like, they thought I was a different person at home, and you know what I'm saying, which I was. I wasn't communicating at all. Wasn't talking much. You know what I'm saying? I just had this heavy feeling on me for a minute. I didn't want to go outside. Didn't want to go nowhere. So it was kind of difficult to deal with. It was just a lot of things reflecting. Like I said, I didn't have any expectations going in. However, I knew I wanted to be different. I wanted to do something different. And when I came home, it was that. So you know, it was like I said, just being to myself, not having many words to say to my kids or my family, my wife. You know what I'm saying? Like I was really off to myself. It was some reflection. Still dealing with that, trying to shake that. Yeah, and just knowing it was time to do the work. But yeah, that's my experience.
Ashe.
You know, for myself coming out of Igbodu, I'm actually the opposite of Fafore. I'm an introvert. I like being at home. I like being to myself. And that's kind of new for me because when I was younger, I was an extrovert. I wanted to be wherever it was happening at, that's where I wanted to be. But as I got older, once I got out of prison the second time, I found myself being an introvert, wanting to stay at home and things like that. So once I made it home, I found myself being able to have my alone time, being able to, you know, come into my altar room, sit, meditate, but I could not study. I could not study for the life of me. I couldn't. My mind was just scattered, and sort of like Fafore, that was something inside that just needed the process. I couldn't tell you what that is. I don't know what took place. I don't know what was happening, but something was happening, and my mind was so scattered. I couldn't, like I said, I couldn't study. I couldn't even read a novel. I had to settle. It took me about 3 or 4 weeks to finally settle whatever that was inside of me to be able to sit still and feel sort of normal again. It took about 3 or 4 weeks for me. So yeah, that was my experience coming out, and yeah, man, that was an experience, man, because I'm used to being able to sit alone, being able to study. I drink my coffee, even though Fafore tells me not to. I drink my coffee. I read my books and I do my studies. But for those 3 or 4 weeks, I wasn't able to do so. So that was an experience for me in itself.
So what was bad about that too, though, for me, you, and for Tumishe is that 2 days later we had an Ishe 5.
Right back.
You know, right back. I did not want to be there.
Right.
Like, I wanted to be like, man, I'm cool, but it was like that looked a little suspect. Like we just became priests, and then the first time it's showtime, we like, nah, I'm good. So
right. So we are a little over 2 years out now. We'll be 3 years out in April. So let's talk about the reality of how things have gone and how things have been going since then. Brother Boz, how have things been going for you since then? Now we're 2 years out, 2.5 years out, almost 3 years. How are things going with you?
You know, initially when I returned to Mexico, everything was still fine. I was still attracting lots of clientele, lots of patients. I was still growing. But I would always hear you all complain about things that were happening in your lives. And I was like, that's not happening to me. But at the same time, I'm the one to say that initially I just didn't really accept that I had entered into the priesthood. But I still remember what Ifa Lolu and Fabulosi had told me, that I was sick. And I remember after that, after I got sick and found out that I was dealing with internal bleeding, my life started to change. My finances changed. The way I viewed Ifa changed. I think I feared Ifa for a moment. So things for me were rough. And then I remember July of 2022, it seems like everything just exploded. And my life just seemed to spiral out of control. I mean, things weren't the same. I really didn't trust Ifa. I don't think that I even really wanted to be a priest. I was really considering going in a different direction, but yet things were still happening for me. I got my license in Mexico to practice medicine. Things just started happening, but bad things kept coming. And it seems as if the negativity outweighed the positivity. You know, so for me, I remember this one incident where I'm waiting on some supplies to come for a patient. The patient is in my office. Jimmy, you have visited this particular office in Navarte. And I'm waiting. I go outside to get the package, and the person's not there. They delivered my package about 4 doors down to a hardware store. And the guy, I see him walking back to his motorcycle. I say, "Are you the delivery man?" And the guy says, "Yeah, I'm that guy." And I said, "Hey, what's wrong with you? Why didn't you ring my bell? Why didn't you bring my package to me? I have a patient waiting for this." And I saw myself put my hand through this guy's helmet because he rushed to put his helmet on because he could see that something was different about me. And I looked, I didn't have my ED. I go back inside, my patient is there, and I call Baba Shangadara and I say, "Hey, what did you all do to me?" He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Hey man, I just saw myself destroy this guy, but I never put my hands on him." He said, "Hey bro, don't worry. You still have your skills." He said, "But you're a different person now." And fortunately, I didn't touch the guy, but I was mad enough to really do damage to him. And plus I had to tend to my patient, you know, so for me, things have been rough, but now as I speak and I spoke of earlier, yeah, I'm starting to get my creativity back. I have my energy back. I feel good. I'm studying. William, he was able to trick me into studying. He'll ask me questions. Leslie's always sending me medical information. So, I mean, between those two, they've really been on me. And of course, Fakori, I don't want to mess up your brand. I know that, and Osheum, those two have really been there for me as well in terms of answering, questions for me, making sure that I stay tight. And James, he's even brought me to tears one time in particular because he was able to explain some things to me that I really need to know because, hey man, I thought I had lost everything and I was losing. I was really losing. And some of the things that I was losing, I think I needed to let go of anyway. But now, like I said, now I'm back. I know that I'm a better physician, a better doctor. There's a difference. I'm a better brother. I know that when it comes to me developing as a priest, I know that I'll be a good priest. I know I'll be very good at what I do. And as I explain to William sometimes, I'm not really, and I'll explain this to you as well, Sam, I really don't care about being recognized as good at being a good priest. I'm more focused on being good at being a priest. So as a doctor, as a priest, and of course there will be no doctors without priests. When I look at who I am and what I become and what my particular Odu entails, I'm very appreciative of the opportunity that I've had. But were I to tell somebody else to follow my footsteps or to do what I've done, I honestly can tell you that I wouldn't recommend it, because I really don't know a lot of people that could handle what I've been through and what we've seen.
I should.
I should. What about you, Brother William?
Things have been, it's definitely different. I'm seeing things different. Sometimes I have highs and I have lows. Like our boss said earlier, I reached out to Baba Leslie. I was at a real low one day, and I reached out to Baba Leslie, and man, I got high as the cost of living after talking to that brother. That brother got some skills, man. He brought me right back where I needed to be.
I should.
I mean, I'm seeing things, my relationship with nature. I was at the gas station a couple of weeks ago, and I'm pumping the gas, and some birds fly on top of the gas pump, and they chirping away. And I go to get back in my vehicle, and they go to screaming real loud. So I walk back into the gas station and get a bag of potato chips and crush it up real fine and throw it to them, and that's exactly what they wanted. I just intuitively knew that's what they wanted. Seeing things. They're not as they're clear. Things are coming more clear to me. I was in my basement cleaning up, and I ran across this Crown Royal bag of dice. I used to shoot dice years ago all over Detroit, and I had these 3 club dice, and with these 3 club dice, we used to play this game called 4, 5, 6. And so, I'm reminiscing back on the day, and I shake the dice up and toss them out, snap my finger, but I didn't see the point. I seen Odu. I seen the leg of Odu shooting those dice, So just seeing things differently, man, and how Ifa is showing up in my life at various times. Sometimes I can read people real clearly. Sometimes I can detect if people have sickness on them, or just growing into Ifa. My relationship with nature, the natural order of things is changing. I'm starting to pay more attention to nature, but it's not always smooth. There's those ups and those downs. Ashe?
Brother James, talk to us, man. How's it going for you out there in Vegas, man? What is looking like out there for you?
Oh man, it's all good, but it's like the saying goes, bit by bit, we eat the head of the rat. And it's really about, me truly learning how to be a priest to myself first, and then extending that out to my family, and then extending that out to a greater community. I know what it is that I'm supposed to be doing. I'm a part of another world, of people who was addicted to drugs and alcohol. And my priesthood is in that space. And I need to be able to go into those spaces and do what it is that I need to do. I've been doing that for the last 25 years. But having been initiated into this African spiritual system, it has given me a few more tools that I can work with in those spaces, for where I can get a better understanding of the people who I deal with. Is because from the, coming out of Igbo Do, I've been able to connect the dots, because it allows me to reflect back on the very beginning when I opened up my first altar, and all it was earth, air, fire, and water. But when I sat in front of that space, I started to get visions, and some of those visions were truly in alignment with my destiny. So coming out of Igbo Do, and over the course of these couple of years, I'm very clear on what it is that I'm supposed to be doing. And I understand the level of responsibility that takes. And that might be one of the reasons why I be dragging my feet sometimes, is because I know when I get into that space, even before Igbo Do, people would come to me for spiritual advice, and things of that nature. So I know what it is that I'm supposed to do. It's just a matter of me saying, you know what? You need to suit up, you need to show up, and you need to do what you need to do, because I know that I carry a lot of light. I know that I carry a message that has depth and weight. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that need to hear that, So it's been up and down. You know, like I said, I had second thoughts about going into Igbo Do. It was almost just 9 of y'all. Is because when I came out of Igbo Do, being initiated to Obatala, things in my personal life, man, turned up, and it was very emotionally challenging for me. And so going into Ifa, I'm like, oh man, I don't know what's gonna happen on the other side of this one here. And once again, I go to Chief and have a conversation with her about how I was feeling about it. She said, don't worry about it. When you go through this, it'll help to even you out. So I've been able to see more clearly what it is that I'm supposed to do. So now I just got to get my hands and my feet moving in the same direction and don't lack the confidence that was taught to me at Ita. Like, don't lack confidence. You got everything that you need. And when I reflect, when I came into the world through my mother, and then when we come back into the world coming through Igbo Do, being rebirthed, that when I both births is that I have everything that I need to be who I am. And to be who I am is a priest in these both worlds, you know. So, man, it be up and down sometimes, man. But, you know, I'm riding with it and it's all good because I know I can call any one of y'all on any given day and you know, run something past you and I can get the information that I need. So, it's been up and down, but it's all good. I wouldn't have it no other way.
Most definitely. Now, true to what Fafore said, and so nobody would have the burden of following Brother Karega. Brother Karega, we're gonna ask you the same question. How are things going for you now? We're about 2.5 years out, man. How are things going for you down there in Atlanta?
Wow. Things are going different because I'm different. Not that things are different, but I'm different. And so, you know, a lot of the challenges that I've been surmounting since being back have been heavy, really heavy. Some of the things that I've seen in my son and my wife and my career, they've been heavy. But Ifa has provided me answers, as is indicated by my name. Ifa has made me more circumspect. Ifa has provided me the poise to deal with the changes that are implicit of our lives. And in so doing, I've been able to come out on the winning end of situations that could have taken me under otherwise. Conversations that I have with my wife now were at one time very emotionally charged, very defensive, very looking for ways in which I can kind of lord over her with my intellect, with my accomplishments, with whatever else I've used to forearm myself against her and other people in order to make sure that I never feel small. Ifa has provided me a humility that allows me to see that I am infinitesimally small and that I am impossibly large. And because of that, I am better. So Ifa has made me better. Ifa has attracted people who need me to me and reminded me that me helping them is not about me. And so we oftentimes speak of ego as if it's always some sort of self-ingratiating pat on the back, but ego also includes those times that we doubt ourselves, because it says to us that we somehow know what our limits are, which is a self-defeating form of ego. Ifa is helping me to interrogate that and move beyond that. So I'm better.
Ashe.
You know, we wasn't gonna burden anybody with having to go after Brother Karega, but Ifa Tomi, let us know, man, what's going on with you, man? Because you out there on one of those islands too, right? You're not real close to Brother Karega. How far are you from Brother Karega?
Either 10 minutes away from each other.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, about 10, 15 minutes away.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, y'all good, man. Y'all good. What's going on with you, man? 2.5 years out of
2.5 years in, man. honestly, fella. Well, before we went into the initiation, you know, we had that pre-initiation class, so y'all already know my story. So yeah, so coming out, man, my life turned upside down, fellas. Y'all know what it is. A lot of y'all know the story. I came home. I was going through some situations, and then I had to make the toughest decision in my life. You know what I'm saying? I separated from my family, and that was rough for me. That was rough for me, and I couldn't understand it at the time, but it was so strong. It was so heavy on me. The spirit wouldn't let me do nothing else. You know, nothing else in my life was getting right until that was the sacrifice that I had to make. So for me, that was it was rough. I made that sacrifice, but things started to get better. Work-wise, it took me a while to get back on my feet, but things started happening. Doors started opening, and then you know what I'm saying, going through that transformation, going through that time period, I was into into studying, you know what I'm saying, getting my knowledge. So, you know, doing certain rituals and practices and stuff like this, it started, you know, things started to happen. So things started turning around, you know. So things got a lot better. But like I said, in the beginning, it was very, very difficult and rough for me to be dealing with the separation, being away from my family, and still feeling alone, but still having to fight through, you know what I'm saying, because it was information and knowledge. So I reached out to a lot of the brothers, man, and y'all kept me up. Y'all held me down. I appreciate and love each and every one of y'all. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, right now, shit, I'm up. Oh, I ain't mean to cuss on the show. My bad.
Nah, you wrong. Hey,
But nah, I'm up, man. I'm feeling better. You know what I'm saying? Life is good. So yeah, I'm looking forward to, you know, see what the next 2.5 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years bring. You know, how all of us grow and develop. So I'm looking forward to it. Absolutely.
Ashe. So when we got initiated, that was a universal year 5. And those who follow astrology understand, amongst other things, universal or a year 5 period, whether it's personal or universal, represents change. And I've heard the word change come up a lot. You know, the process of initiation is similar to the process of birth. And one of the things that came to me as James was speaking was that going through that process of initiation, we didn't give birth to a new version of ourselves. Right along with the version of ourselves was born a better version of ourselves. And now we're walking through life as those two energies. And the battle is which way we're going to go. We're going to go with the old version of ourselves, or we're going to go with this this new, this freshly birthed version of ourselves. And what I hear when I hear the responses about the struggles that people face, that's really what it boils down to, is being faced with two versions of ourselves. So that's what I've been faced with. I've been faced with, how much do I want to stay the same versus how much do I really want to evolve into this purpose that I chose for myself in heaven before I came here wrapped in flesh to have this journey. So anytime I'm met with any kind of obstacle, it's because I chose the old version, not the new version. So I always got to remember that. I always remind myself of that. What about you, Osheun?
Man, I feel like things have been better post Igbo. I did do a lot of moving around. I did a lot of changing jobs. I probably changed jobs 3 times since Igbo. I feel like I'm settled now, sort of settled now. Things have been going really well with you and I. Like Correa said, that the people who need you are attracted to you. The people who have needed us have been attracted to us. We've been helping a lot of people, verifying for a lot of people, assisting a lot of people. So that's what I've really been focused on is being a full-fledged, well-rounded priest, being able to help the people that step before us, that either literally or symbolically sit on our mats. So things have been going good. Things have been going pretty well for me since Igbo.
Good. So this question is for Isaac and Correa. So, like myself, the two of you are members of Black Greek letter organizations. Obviously, we go through an initiation through that process. So, for you guys, what was that initiation that you went through as a child versus, this initiation in the priesthood? Correa, let's hear from you first.
Okay. So, when I pledged my frat, there was a lot of posturing, a lot of trauma, right? A lot going on that was kind of more indicative of the time that I was in. I was in my late teens, early 20s when I got into the frat, and so it was more kind of getting rote knowledge, remembering poems, remembering founders, remembering other, sundry information. With this initiation, this was more about internalized study as opposed to externalized study. This was more about facing fears that I was carrying around with me as opposed to facing fears that were imposed upon me. That having been stated, it was a much more daunting task to be initiated into Ifa when one really understands what one is initiating into, kind of the higher education of oneself. And, especially when we're talking about, the priesthood, it's an even deeper level of self-inquiry and tearing oneself apart in order to reassemble oneself as a better version. So I would say that fundamentally, that was the principal difference. Yeah, the principal difference there was just the fact that this was an externalized change, whereas with the frat, I love the frat and everything, but it was definitely an externalized thing that I then became a part of. So I won't prolong the answer. I guess that would be mine. What about you?
Olameni?
I think what I would say is that the fraternity, like that process, is all about what you bring to the table for the organization. Right? It's really not about you as an individual. It's not about the line or whatever. It's about what you all bring to the organization. The foolishness of being an undergrad aside, you're there to add whatever you add to the organization's mission, and that's what that's about. And it's about diminishing, sort of your own personal stuff to work together with these other men to get, whatever the programs and historical stuff of your organization or your campus to get that stuff done. That's what that's about. Initiating into E5 is about you, almost exclusively, right? I mean, we all came through together, but we all got our own dudes. We all got our own stuff. And processing through that with all of you, we're all united by some particular stuff. And that's, kind of why, at least in my opinion, why we all came through together the way that we did. But, Initiation E5 was about me as an individual, right? It was about my stuff, my mess, my destiny, and how I needed to grow to get to where, so that I could fulfill that contract. So I think I'd say that was probably my. That's what I noticed the most.
So for me, that initiation happened for me in college when I was 20. So it'll be 24 years in April. I don't know what it is about me in April initiations, but in April it'll be 24 years being in the fraternity. And then even after that, before E5, there was Masonry. From the actual process of just the initiation part, I have to say that my initiation in college with Kappa Alpha Psi was probably the most impactful initiation. Again, just as the process of initiation, you're talking about 17 weeks. So, like, it was a part of, like, the process of initiation was a part of my life for 17 weeks. It was an everyday, all day thing for 17 weeks. And man, I would be one of the coldest diviners on the planet if we had 17 weeks of Greek style pledging in Ebodu, boy. Them old dudes would be, we'll learn them backwards and forward. But I didn't have the proper appreciation for the things learned in that process until I got older. It was actually Masonry when I started thinking about pieces of information like pursuits pass over the habits, or if you seek this monument, look about you. Those types of things. Like when I started looking on them, once I was going through Masonry, I was just like, yo, this is impactful. We are Awos, which means secret. I really learned to appreciate that concept going through initiation through Kappa Alpha Psi. So as far as the change and the impact on my life and of others, there's no comparison because E5 is just what it is. But the actual process of initiation, just that initiation process, I would say was probably more impactful in college, if that makes sense.
Yeah. If you don't mind, I just kind of add something based on that thought. For me, I would say it was differently impactful, right? With my line brothers and I, it was definitely number one, it was for the time, right? Because I was 19, 20 years old when I was getting into my frat too. I'm an elder. But as far as like, I wonder if my fraternity and its initiation process had grafted onto Ifa, I'm not sure that I would be a good divine or even a good priest for that matter, because there was a certain connectedness that initiation process was not designed to engender. Like what our initiation process in Ifa did, it really did take us internally. Everything from just the process of us being together in that same space and marveling at how we were able to keep such peace and even to keep a good smell in the room, to Baba Dare coming in and doing those meditations every morning. Everything was designed to get us in touch with ourselves so that we could prepare to accommodate the rest of the world that was sure to come our way. I'm not sure that, when I look back at the frat and me getting into that, to Isaac's point earlier, it was just designed for me to be a good frat member, to be a productive frat member. I'm not so sure that it pales in comparison as far as like what it was designed to do. So I would say I agree with you. It's different. I don't know if I would say better or worse. It's just different.
Absolutely. And to add with what you said though, that I think is important, I think the time that we spent in that room, just the 10 of us, for me was more impactful than the actual ceremonial pieces of initiation. And that is something that I take away that I wasn't expecting.
Word.
If anybody at this point can speak to that, if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. Like, I think that was probably, man, the first time in my adulthood that I've been in a room with 10 dudes, and it's been like that positive of an experience.
Mhm.
And I,
I can
I
say
can honestly say that. Like, that's probably the
I
first
say.
time in all my 35 years.
I can say for myself, man, it was hilarious. Fafore, man, it was just hilarious, man. I didn't laugh. I haven't laughed so much, man. But something that I was experiencing in that room, it was that, it was a lot of conversations going on. And I would say that the men on this podcast right now are brilliant in their own ways. And it was like when I was there and I was listening to all these conversations for myself, I could see a little piece of myself in everybody. Everybody I could see, I'm like, wow, and I could see myself. It was like I was really looking at a reflection of myself when I would take pieces of each and every person. And I thought that was something that was real phenomenal. And I was like, man, how grateful I felt to be in there, to be able to laugh and listen to the stuff that was going on and the food. We ain't gonna go there though. But
Yes, we are.
yeah, look
Yes,
at
we
it.
are.
Look at it. And just everything that was just going on, and man, and listen to the conversations and the things that was being shared and the level that was being shared at, man. I just thought it was phenomenal, and I wouldn't change it for nothing, man. Real talk.
Since we talking about the initiation and the time that we spent together, hey, listen here. It was so much laughter, so many jokes. You know what I'm talking about? We got real personal in there, fellas. Look, we got real personal, man. We shared some tears together. We laughed together. And for me, I've only done that with close personal friends who I've grown up with. But to be able to be in that space and share that time in that space with y'all brothers and be able to be vulnerable as I was or as we were, speaking about our shortcomings, speaking about and being very honest with it, because that's what that time was for. And then being able to lift each other up and then bring it back and then joke about it. We joked about some real personal things in there, but no one took it serious. So that was a beautiful thing for me, man, and it's always something that would be held high in my regards. Sure.
What I want to say, I still remember Baba Shangadari opening the door, and you guys were in there, and I remember, setting down my luggage, and you guys standing up, and I go around and I greet all of you, but I had been told to stay quiet, not to tell you all anything about me, because they didn't want you all to know where I was coming from. But I remember being so impressed with you guys because you guys were my reintroduction to American culture. So you guys were saying things that were just like, I just wasn't used to. You all were using words that I just didn't know. And then, of course, Isaac and Correa, they knew how to manipulate the language very well. So I was impressed because they spoke English the way I speak Spanish, which can make it sometimes difficult for people to understand me. And then the rest of you all were just so relaxed with your expressions and what you had to say. So I was very, very appreciative of that. And that's why you all left the impression with me that you did, So, not all of it was good. I found a way to make it good, because you guys use words that I don't hear here and I don't want to hear in Mexico. So yeah, I'm very appreciative of you guys for that reason.
Yeah.
Their food, though. What about their food? Man, look.
I was good with it, man. Whatever they was gonna serve me up, I was gonna appreciate it and take it in, man. I ain't particular.
We understand all that, but there was a lot of greenery. Want no poultry, want no fish, want turkey.
Right.
So Kerry thought he was coming to Ruth's Chris.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, he was looking for some chicken. He thought he was gonna get some goat at least.
Man, at the
Good
time,
in,
look,
good
this
out.
is chicken. I would have been cool with a chicken.
Right, but good in, good out. Like I think that every aspect of it, including the food, right, it was part of what we saw. Sometimes I wonder if we had gotten a hold of some chicken that had a lot of hormones in it before it was killed, got a hold of some beef that had whatever in it before it was killed. You know, could that have affected adversely the energy of the room? I just have to believe that all of that was intentional and was an integral part to us having the experience that we're speaking of today.
And I really think, I want to piggyback, I really think that we should commend those Eagles, man. Those Eagles did a wonderful job, brothers. I mean, the sisters really came through for us. You know, we need to acknowledge them, man, and give them praise. These sisters really was there for us.
Definitely, they did. Definitely. You know, this is a good lead up to, you know, us talking about being vulnerable, using some language that we might not have used before, going to just being vulnerable, like Brother James talked about. You know, we were all told as a group that we were that we had problems with the feminine, that many of us were too masculine, and that we had to tap into the feminine side of this spiritual thing. For me, I feel like it's still a difficult thing. It's still a difficult thing for me to fully tap into the feminine. I think I've been in situations where bravado was necessary, and for so long that it's just a part of me. It's a part of me. It's difficult for me to get rid of. I try to call it out in my mind when I see it, to try to make adjustments, to try to find a balance between the masculine and feminine, but it's still a difficult thing for me to do. Fafore and myself, we got into trying to study the divine feminine. We felt like if we intellectually understood what the divine feminine was, that we would be able to exemplify that. And it's still difficult for me. It's still difficult for me to fully tap into that divine feminine. But nevertheless, we were told that that was something that we needed to do. So this question is for all of us. How have you think you've done with tapping into the feminine energy that's within yourself? Let's start with Brother Fatum Shet.